Okay, well, welcome to the Fire Are You Ready panel discussion that is tonight, March 31st at 6:30, 2022. And as you probably already know, Willits Economic Localization is sponsoring this program. We are a local nonprofit group that tries to make Willits as survivable and thriving as it can be, as self-sufficient as it can be. So we work on a number of issues, including local food, energy, transportation, health, environment, and emergency preparedness is one of the other things that we have been very concerned about. And as we all also know, fire season is almost 12 months a year now. And it's one of the things that our community is extremely concerned about. And that's why we are hosting this panel tonight. If you have not been familiar with WELL, I hope you will consider joining. I will put it in the chat how you can do that. It's quite easy. You can either go to our website. We really appreciate memberships. It's basically, we run on a very tight budget, so every member counts. John Haschak, who's the moderator for tonight, and I will try to keep track of who's on the queue to ask questions. But in general, if you want to keep it on speaker view, which is in your upper right corner of your screen, then you'll see the person who's actually speaking at that time. If you want to see everybody else, you put it on gallery view. Without further ado, I want to welcome John Haschak, our 3rd District Supervisor, who's going to moderate this evening, and our panelists who are, well, they were listed on the screen share, which I might put on just for a minute here. But we're really pleased to have many of the agencies that provide emergency services to us present tonight to explain what they do and explain what you can do to make their lives easier and to make your life more secure and answer your questions. So without further ado, I'm turning it over to John Haschak. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Madge. I really want to thank WELL for sponsoring this, and Madge certainly for getting the word out and organizing it. It takes a lot of work to get one of these together. So, and with the illustrious crew we have today. So I'm John Haschak, 3rd District Supervisor, and I'm really honored to be here with these people who really are putting our communities first. So we have tonight Brentt Blaser, who's the Director of the Office of Emergency Services for Mendocino County. We have Scott Cratty, who's with Mendocino County FireSafe Communities. And we have Sheriff Kendall, Mendocino County's own. And Keith Rutledge from Sherwood Firewise Council or Community. And Drew Rhoads, who's the Battalion Chief for CalFire. So what we're gonna do tonight is we're gonna have about 5 minutes max for each person, and they can talk about what their agency is doing, how it applies to you, and some important facets of that. So with that, we're going to start off with Brentt Blaser from the Mendocino County Office of Emergency Services. Oh, Brentt, if you could hold off, I just see that Sheriff Kendall came on. So Sheriff Kendall, would you like to start off?
Good evening, John. Yeah, I'm super sorry. I had a little trouble logging in and some other issues. If you folks would like to kick off, I'm already about 3 minutes behind on this, and so I'd like to catch up if I could.
Okay, no problem. All right, thanks for being on, Sheriff. So Brentt, would you like to kick it off then?
Certainly. Thank you, Supervisor Haschak. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
First thing first, there's 3 things people can do: be informed, be prepared, and, be involved. When it comes to being informed, the biggest thing you can do is make sure you're registered for alerts. We just did the tsunami test. I know the title tsunami might not think it applies, but essentially we sent messaging to everyone who is enrolled in the different various alerting systems. So anyone that I hear that says, I didn't get a message, Either you are not in cell reception or you're not properly registered. And I just want to reemphasize that because a lot of people don't realize there's two different systems, and we want to make sure that you get on there and register for both. We made some PSAs and launched them this week after the test. So there's actually 2 videos online to walk you through step-by-step how to register for Everbridge and how to register for Nixle. They're separate items. They have different capabilities. And I just want to encourage people, that's one thing. Following us on social media, following your local news, great way to be informed. And of course, most importantly, get to know your neighbors, because we may put some information out there, but a lot of times people don't take action until they verify the information with a secondary source and a trusted source. So, talk to your neighbors and make sure everybody's in the loop and we're working together. You can register at mendoready.org. There's a link right at the header. There's links under these same tabs that I'm speaking about being informed, being prepared, and such. When it comes to being prepared, I'm going to kind of gloss over because I know Scott's team's doing a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to Firewise in all different capacities. I would just really like to stress that, we're coming into PSPS season, fire season, and drought. So there's different aspects that everybody has, from water storage, generators, hardening their home, all the things that you got to do maintenance wise to be ready for the fire season. Don't put it off. Start looking ahead. When everybody's out shopping for the same stuff, it gets to be a headache, right? And of course, don't forget the pets and such. And then finally, getting involved. We'd have search and rescue, ham radios. I know Mike's on the phone call tonight. From Mike Carter, heading up a lot of our MAX group, Mendocino Auxiliary Communication Service. That's a volunteer group people can get involved with. And then, of course, your local CERT, North Coast Opportunity is actually going to be scheduling, or has scheduled, 2 classes. One will be in the city of Ukiah, April 30th. And then we're going to have a secondary one in Casper on May 21st. And so, again, look at Mendo Ready. There's a section on getting involved. They're always looking for different affiliated volunteers that we can bring on, because having you trained up and having you affiliated before the disaster makes you more usable. Coming in the midst of it and wanting to help out makes it agencies get overrun. And so it'd be nice if you learn some skills and such and learn how to integrate. I'm going to stop there. And by all means, if anybody has any questions or anything I need to want me to elaborate on, just let me know.
All right, thanks, Brentt. So to sign up, if someone's not signed up at this point, they go to mendoready.org.
That's the easiest way, sir.
And you can find whatever you need there.
Exactly. And we put two videos online that we'll keep sharing over and over again on Facebook and Twitter.
Right. So that's mendoready.org. Great. All right. Oh, Madge.
I was just going to mention that any additional resources like that, you could put that in the chat. And if people want to either jot them down or save the whole chat at the end of the evening, I'll make sure we've got easy references for them.
So one of the things I would recommend also is if you go to mendoready.org and right on the landing page, when you scroll down at the bottom, there's a list of resources of different media sites to follow, from everything from road closures to CHP to national weather. And that's how you can really easily find the valid sources of information, the source of like whatever the issue is. If that's the person that agency you want to follow, we listed them there for you.
Great. All right. Thank you. So Sheriff Kendall, are you ready now?
Just a couple of things. We want everyone to go to that mendoready.org. We've got some training and whatnot on there. We're going to continue to put out training and some PSA, some public service announcements, reminding everybody what our evacuation terminology is. And we want the public to be speaking the same language as us, so that when we send out messaging, you understand exactly what we need of you. Also, be prepared with items packed and have a plan. And then, the notifications and whatnot, when we send these out, we want everyone to also stay in contact with their families, with their relatives. One of the hardest things that we wind up having to do is when somebody calls in and says, I don't know where my neighbor is. And then we've got to backtrack and we've got to look around, especially after a fire. And so if you can stay in touch with your families and your relatives, that would be great. My home phone is ringing. Let me mute myself and deal with that real quick. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, we're going to go to Scott Cratty with Mendocino County FireSafe Communities.
Council.
Council. Oh, I thought, okay.
That's okay.
Great.
Okay, so I'm just going to try to do a short version of our super long presentation of what we do. I just put up on the screen a kind of summary. The thing I'm going to emphasize first is one of the things the Mendocino County FireSafe Council does is bring as many resources as possible to Mendocino County. And that's in terms of grants, and we have a tool library and community mapping process that we're working on. But just to give a sense of the scope, we've got at the moment like $6.8 million worth of grants that we either wrote and or are managing that are landed and working in the county at the moment. And we have another $7.9 million worth of grants that we've written that are pending, that are going to hopefully bring in more work to the county shortly. And so that's first thing we do is manage sort of large scale projects that are helping reduce fuel hazards around the county and or do other fire mitigation related projects. Secondly, I just want to mention that we just brought on a brand new county coordinator. We're super excited about. It's a new full-time position that is very much about working with all the agencies in the county and trying to help eliminate duplication and find the most important projects and make sure those rise to the top of the funding chain. So it's another thing that we're doing. We do a lot of education work, and hopefully later we'll take a peek at our website, but there's a ton of educational material on there, videos that will walk you through how to harden your home, a history of radio programs that will walk you through just about every aspect that you might want to dive into about preparedness. Secondly, and I think I'll skip over to our website now if I can. Let me get out of here. We also have a couple of sort of anchor programs that we maintain for the county. And one of those is, let's see if I can get to our website and share. If you go to community programs on our website, you'll see one of our two sort of ongoing programs is Defensible Space Assistance for Income Eligible. That is a program where for folks that can't afford to pay for defensible space themselves and physically have trouble doing it themselves. So for seniors or folks, persons with handicaps, we can come do your defensible space for you. And we have a lot of funding available through that program at the moment, in large part thanks to the county and their PG&E disaster recovery allocation. So if you know people who need help with their defensible space, get them to call us or register on our website. We also have just below that community chipper days. And that's for people who are doing their defensible space themselves. We can make it a lot easier for you by bringing the chipper out to your community and coordinating taking that away. And what we ask is that people coordinate their neighborhoods and work with us to make that efficient. So you get a bunch of people together in the same area to do your defensible space. You work together, you get a lot done, and we come and take it away to help make it easier for you. So that's another ongoing program. Another thing I just want to mention briefly is this is a brand new and exciting thing. The press release isn't even out. We just did our own round of micro grants. We did a round of grants that were available for county fire districts and neighborhood fire safe councils. There are about 40 neighborhood councils associated with us around the county. And we just are awarding $50,000 to help inspire a lot of other little projects around the county. So we're trying to sort of move it along. And there's a bunch of exciting ones you'll see out of there, including several fire districts that are going to be putting in new water supplies or extending their water supplies. There's going to be, Laytonville is going to be working on a new weed abatement ordinance and rolling that out with funding for this. There's on the coast, there's going to be some community emergency responder mapping. So we're helping fund essential projects around the county. And before I stop just what we're doing, I also just want to point out that we are also putting on a community wildfire preparation expo coming up May 21st. It's going to be the most fun wildfire expo you've ever been to because it's in combination with the Mendocino County Homebrew Fest, which is a benefit for us. So they're going to be happening right next to each other out at Anderson Valley Brewing on May 21st. And we will hopefully have just about every agency you might want to talk to about any aspect of wildfire preparation out there. And with that, I will pass it on.
All right, thanks, Scott. So certainly there's a lot of really good work going on there. And I see that Emily Tecchio is on the line too, and she's helping Scott these days. So welcome, Emily. Let's see.
And
Sheriff Kendall, are you ready?
And Scott, perhaps you could stop the screen share now.
That was my brother Luke, or Chief Kendall, CalFire Chief Kendall, who explained to me that Drew Rhoads would be speaking for him this afternoon. Luke's traveling, and he doesn't think that he's going to have enough Wi-Fi to get on there. A couple of things. As I mentioned before, we want to be speaking all the same language when we put out these alerts and warnings. So please get to know your zones. Please understand what our terminologies are as far as evacuations went on. We have evacuation warnings, we have evacuation orders, and we want to get the information out, especially when we're asking the public to do something for us. And so we'll work on that together. The other kind of a big concern for me is we've had a lot of people upset when we close an area and then the fire gets put out. There's a few things that we've got to go through. And it's almost like we have to constantly re-educate folks because, you know, new people move to our area. They haven't been through this before. Even though the fire may be out, there are a lot of hazards and a lot of things that we have to deal with prior to allowing people back in. There are trees that fall. We have a lot of trees that become compromised in these fires. There's power lines. There's all of these different things. And myself and CalFire and PG&E, before we open an area up, we all sit down, we put our heads together, and we deal with those hazards and we mitigate them prior to letting people in. But one of the things that we do want to do is, as soon as we can safely do it, get people in, and then also work to be able to escort people into locations where they're going to lose something if they aren't allowed to get in there and deal with their animals, if they aren't allowed to get in there and deal with these things. So we're working hard on that, trying to get that kind of contained so that if we have another one of these fires this year, we can work with the folks to be able to get the needs met. And that's about it for me. Unless anybody has, I guess we're going to deal with questions in the chat, right?
Yeah, but Sheriff Kendall, when you said you should know your zone, and certainly
Yes.
we talked about that before, how does a person know their zone?
You can pull your address up on that map, and Brentt is much more technical than me, and so he can explain it much better, but he's also going to be putting out the PSAs again that will walk you through how to find your zones on the map. And the map itself is expandable so that you can actually zoom in and whatnot. I know that we've had some folks who are kind of right on the ragged edge, but when you zoom in, you can find your address and you can find your zone.
Okay. And that's at mendoready.org.
Yes, at mendoready.org.
Very good. And, I know that we have a lot of people from all around the county, certainly a lot of people I see people from Covelo, Laytonville, Willits areas. And so we're going to have Keith Rutledge right now, who represents the Sherwood Firewise community.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Supervisor Haschak. I guess a few things that I haven't heard talking about evacuation is really important. Not only the plan, but practicing. One of the things we've tried each year, and we're going to do it again this year, probably in May, is to do an evacuation practice where we basically use our dial my call system that we have that is our sort of emergency notification for our community. And we send a notice out that to practice as if this were an evacuation, you have 15 minutes or 20 minutes to get ready. And we announce it ahead of time, so it's not like surprising people. But what we found over the years is that people realize all of a sudden that they're not home when that happened, or their kid is over at somebody else's house, or you know, all those things that you've got your plan, you got your bag by the door, you're thinking about it, but it doesn't happen that way. So it's very good to think about all the possible ways for evacuation. And the other thing to focus on is the interior aspects of your house. We focus a lot on vegetation clearing, defensible space, wildland fires, but chances are you're going to have a house fire, statistically, probably more likely than be involved in a big, a major wildfire. So all of your interior smoke alarm, carbon monoxide detectors, fire extinguishers, you should have fire extinguishers in your kitchen, have one in your car, water storage around the home, you know, things like that that are really important that, again, if you don't have it ready and it's an emergency, it's too late, you know, you can't be prepared. So have all those things inside, including an evacuation for your children from, let's say, a kitchen fire or a bedroom fire where they have to go out through a window or through a back door or another door, and then where do you gather? So that's sort of inside house fire. One other thing that happened in evacuations was when we had that last evacuation, a lot of people left their water on when they left the site. Don't do that. So we need to make sure our neighbors know that you can't just turn your sprinklers on and head out. Spent a lot of time trying to turn those off, and it was draining the water system. So it's good to have your own water supply. It's good to wet things down if you do have time before you leave. But, you know, think about that we don't want to leave the water systems on. And I'll just close with one other real practical thing is address signs. Driving around, when you see the really nice reflective green with the reflective numbers on it, really tell where somebody's address is. There's way too many places that have dark addresses up on their house or hidden in the bushes someplace. It's so unbelievably hard for emergency services, including the ambulance. And again, you're more likely to have some emergency that needs an ambulance. They need to know that address too. So that's something we can all do that's pretty easy. Scott mentioned that the FireSafe Council and Sherwood Firewise are both going to be doing home hardening kinds of programs. So if you're in the Sherwood corridor area, look forward to Sherwood Firewise on April 14th is our Zoom meeting, and we'll be having a home inspection service with a licensed contractor going around to help people identify all the things they can do on their home for home hardening. And I know the FireSafe Council is doing something similar on a county level for home inspections. So that's something, again, we need to do as a community. It was mentioned that your house may be okay, but if your neighbor's house catches on fire, it's going to catch your house on fire. So back to what the sheriff said, you know, get to know your neighbors and work together in your community to make your whole block fire safe. And I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Keith. So we're here at the Fire Are You Ready town hall that Well is sponsoring, and really want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We still have Drew Rhoads from CalFire, who's the battalion chief for this area of the 3rd District, and really appreciate everyone's involvement on this. So, Battalion Chief Rhoads.
Greetings all. So what we're doing to get ready, CalFire as a whole. So first I'll go over what the unit's doing, and then I'll kind of go over a little more statewide, and then what people can do at home. So last year we had 2 of the most destructive fires in California history. The Dixie Fire, we lost 1,300 homes, and the Caldor Fire, we lost over 1,000 homes. Okay, last year was also, we had 4 of the largest wildfires in California history. So things are getting worse year after year after year. Since 2015, we've had 3 different major incidents in the unit in the last couple of years. So things are getting drier, not as much water. With that, we're going to be having some augmentation staffing. Starting next Friday, we will go to 1 engine per battalion. So we'll have 6 engines staffed full time. On May 16th, we'll have 1 engine per station. So all the stations we have in our unit, we have 10 of them. We'll have 1 engine per station. So everybody will be back in their houses, in their communities. May 30th, we go to full staffing with 16 engines, 4 bulldozers, and we'll have 4 hand crews. 1 will be a California Conservation Corps crew. 1 will be a National Guard crew or a rattlesnake crew that are full-time Guard members that are loaned to us. And we'll have 2 firefighter hand crews out of Chamberlain Creek Fire Center. And we still have 1 fire crew still hanging on at Parlin Fork Camp. We'll have the Huey, the CalFire Huey again this year instead of the Firehawk. We have to wait for United Rotorcraft, which builds and outfits the Firehawk once it comes over from Poland. There's some negotiation between the Department of General Services and CalFire on some contract verbiage. And so we're waiting on the next Firehawk to come so we can get ours. So we'll have enough to replenish the fleet when they have maintenance. There will be 2 additional Type 1 air tankers. So not the small ones we have at Ukiah Air Tech Base, but the large ones. We'll have a C-130 and an MD-87, which is a passenger type jet with 2 jet engines. They will both be out of the McClellan Air Attack Base. We're going to have 8 Type 1 helicopters. So think of a Sky Crane or a Chinook or a Black Hawk with a much larger bucket. Those are going to be at Sonoma, Napa, Chico, Siskiyou, Truckee, Lassen, Redding, and Eel River or Garberville area. We're not getting one in the unit, but we're going to have 1 in Garberville and 1 in Sonoma and another one in Napa. So we're pretty well surrounded with Type 1 aircraft for rotary wing. On the larger state side, it was just approved yesterday, $109 million in E-fund augmentation, so we can start early and carry this through until fiscal year 22, starting July 1. That's going to provide us a few of the things that I spoke about earlier. And it's more overhead assignments. It's more engineers, captains, battalion chiefs, division chiefs to staff these programs. So as we move forward, we'll have more people in the field. Within a few years, we're going to be the largest fire department in the nation, hopefully topping somewhere over 11,000 seasonal or personnel total. Out of that, we're going to get 2 extra engines per unit, but not with staffing. So we have 16 full-time line engines. We have 3 reserves, and we're going to get 2 additional for a total of 21 that we can staff. Again, that's no extra staffing, so our people will be strapped to staff those pieces of equipment. Okay, for the what else we're doing in the unit. So along with County FireSafe, we have fuels projects and pre-incident mapping going. Brooktrails, Sylvandale, Spring Creek, Pine Mountain, Ridgewood Ranch, String Creek, and Tartar Canyon. We have the Brushy VMP, which is a 900-acre vegetation management burn, hopefully coming up, and we might not get all of it done this year. We have the Leonard Lake fuels modification that was submitted through about a month ago through the grant process. That'll be a 900-acre fuels modification, 300 of grass burning, 600 of a timber fuel model modification. We're working pretty aggressively with the skunk train maintenance staff to maintain their clearance along the train track so we don't have that grass fire that goes from the grass into the brush into the southwest side of Brooktrails. For the community, it's already been addressed a couple of times. Addressing is one of our #1 things. So whether it's local engines or local crews, we usually have a pretty good idea using our know-how and technology. We can figure out where we need to go. However, when we have a larger incident, we're going to have people from all across the state coming to the county. They might not have the same local knowledge that we have. So addressing is an absolute. You have to do it. Unfortunately, we're unable to force it anymore with some of the public resource code. But if you do anything, get your address on the street so we can find you. Preparing your driveways for ingress and egress. I was just texting with a person that is working on doing some mastication work along the driveway. They're asking, how far do I need to go? It's a factor of how dense and how thick and how large the fuels are. The thicker they are, the denser they are. We need to move those back so you have a clear ingress and egress for us to get in and for them to get out. After that, it's clearance around the structures. We want to have the 5 feet around the structures cleared of most fuels. We do not want to have wood piles right next door, right next to the house. Then we have from 5 to 30 feet out, we call it the lean, mean, green zone. We want to isolate the fuels, mow all the grass down, get rid of all the brush, and limb up any trees as high as you can. From 30 to 100 feet out from the habitable structure, same thing, fuels modification, limit the brush, limit the trees, anything that's dead, bring it down. And the last one would be home hardening. I know some people talk about that. That's one of the things we've seen the most that is most efficient in these large fires. If the home has been hardened appropriately, the structures will, along with a good follow-up patrol from fire resources, and sometimes that includes PG&E resources and private insurance fire brigades. If you take care of and have a proper roof, maintain your debris in your gutters, dual pane windows or triple pane windows, and having non-flammable siding, that really helps you improve the chances of your house surviving. And just in on that, we did have the Hopkins fire this year where we were able to catch the arsonists. We had 149 arsonists caught this year in California by our fire prevention specialists. And on the Hopkins, we had several houses. Of course, we had 30 that were destroyed. We had a whole bunch that were impacted by fire. And because of the home hardening, they were not destroyed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief Rhoads. And I see that the Mendocino Unit Chief Luke Kendall is on the line. I don't know if he can hear us or not, but thank you. And you know, we're in good hands with Sheriff Matt Kendall and then Chief Luke Kendall, you know, watching over Mendocino County. Chief Rhoads, if you could tell us again what your boundary is for the area you're managing.
So so Battalion 2 which is pretty much the majority of your district and a little bit of the Southern District, goes to up to Highway 162, goes east to Dos Rios, and it kind of follows the Eel River. On the west side of Highway 1, it encompasses Brooktrails and then to Ermical Road. And then on the south end, it's at the bottom end of the grade. That's kind of my cut. On my duty days, I cover from pretty much 162 to the county line, south to the county line. So it's a big chunk of real estate, and it's the busiest thing we have in the unit right now.
Thank you very much. So we've heard from all of our presenters, and what we're going to do now is see if there's any questions out there that anyone might have.
There's a couple of 3 questions in the chat, which I might read, but I also thought we could read what the 2 people that were going to be panelists and weren't able to come were the John Noyer, Fire Chief for Brooktrails, and Bill Carter with the Little Lake Fire Department. And I could get those, they just gave us short little emails. Do you have that handy, John? Or if not, I'll get them and read them.
I could get it in a minute.
Okay.
I have them handy if that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So the Brooktrails report was that Brooktrails is continuing with hazard abatement and will be targeting grass parcels. Training in structure defense and wildland firefighting is ongoing. We have purchased Mission Bull apparatus and continue to work closely with our neighboring cooperators to provide a hard-hitting response. That was the update from Captain Noyer. And then from Little Lake Fire Protection District is currently training for the wildland fire season. We are advising property owners to begin defensible space preparation and pre-planning in the event of a fire, maybe moving toward their property, cleaning gutters and removing materials that may propagate fire spread to the structures, clearly marked addresses and maintaining road access roads, clearly mark any available water sources. Those were comments from Little Lake Fire.
Okay.
I was just curious that is there going to be any change to the burn permits this season? We don't have Little Lake or Brooktrails on, but perhaps CalFire may have a view on that. Just as far as it being early and dry, is there going to be any change to burn permit process?
Yes, burn permitting is starting on April 4th. You can go online to the fire.ca.gov for an LE62. That's the 4x4 burn piles. And if you're burning anything larger than a 4x4, you can contact the field battalion chief in your area for an LE5, where we can go up to a 10x10 pile.
Okay, and Chief Kendall.
I just wanted to introduce myself and just say thank you to the community for putting this on, and thank you to Chief Rhoads for representing CalFire. And, you know, there is some changes coming as Chief Rhoads spoke of when it comes to burning permits and things like that. We're just seeing things drying out. And we're noticing that we're starting to get escape control burns. So we are going to put that burning permits required into effect. I know that's normally around May 1st, but the way the fuels are right now and the way the weather patterns are looking, that's why we decided to put in that the burn permit required. And with that, what that really does is gives us the opportunity to meet with the public or talk to the public and to be able to, you know, educate them on safe burning conditions and things like that. Just because it's a burn day doesn't mean it's a good day to burn. And, you know, we certainly want to make sure that people are vigilant when it comes to that. And, you know, historically in Mendocino County, that is one of our leading ignitions. So we just want to assure that people are using caution this year and getting all their stuff taken care of early on in the spring here, and try to get everything done before we get really into fire season. So thank you guys very much, and I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Chief Kendall. You know, one thing I wanted to add was that, you know, I've been working really closely with Keith Rutledge in the Sherwood Firewise community and the county about trying to get this community or this county service area 3 going so that we could maintain the egress and ingress routes, you know, these emergency access routes of the Furco Road and the Willits Creek Trail for emergency purposes. And, you know, some of you might have heard that, you know, we had an issue with LAFCO. LAFCO wants to do a little more research, so there's a hold on that, you know. And if you're living in the Brooktrails or the Sherwood Road corridor, you probably received a letter from the county about a month ago. And really, what we're looking at, and Keith has been great, is we're looking at CalFire to kind of step up and help us out maintaining those roads. We think that the roads are in good condition and that there's nothing that really needs to be more done with, in addition to the CSA 3. You know, we won't have the CSA 3 in place this year, but we hope to in the future. And in the meantime, CalFire is working with us, and we're just going to assure everyone that those roads are useful, they'll be accessible if there is an emergency. And so we're in good shape right now. Are there any other questions, Madge?
Yes, one that's easy to do is what is the road width and height recommended for the driveways, ingress and egress that you mentioned earlier? I think that was Drew Rhoads was talking about that. So the, you know,
Yep.
height.
So I'll go. So the road height we like 15 feet, and road width we like 12 feet from the center line, so 24. And then for I don't want to mess it up. Lawrence. I'm typing a answer right. Was it
Lawrence?
Okay. I'm typing an answer for them with those large piles that are left over from August. To try to, it's a problem across the state because in a lot of these fires we've had to move so much timber. In some places where it was SPI land or it was another timber owner, they can do an emergency exemption, so they can actually deck the lumber and then move it off to a mill. As they're saying, it's some of that stuff is too large to burn, and I believe some of my predecessors might have made some deals that we cannot can do. So I know our battalion chief out in Covelo, Andy Whitlock, is working on that, and I'm sure Chief Kendall is understanding what's going on, and something we can mitigate a little bit easier when the emergency is still occurring. After the fact or 2 years later, it's a little bit more difficult for us to deal with. So not a great answer, but it's something we're aware of, and hopefully we can work work toward in the future.
All right, thank you. Jane, you have a question?
I do. I was here about 5 years ago when we had the big fires in the Santa Rosa area, and then they moved up towards us. We had, and you could see it on television. However, we didn't know where they were, and we had absolutely no phone service in the whole area. I want to know if something has been done about those cell towers, and if we will actually have phone service if there's an emergency like that, because that was scary as heck. I mean, Tom Allman was driving around with his megaphone, but do we have, are those cell towers hardened? I mean, are we going to be okay for phone service?
And Jane, I think I can answer that one for you. I was out there in the 2017 fires as well. And what the issue was we had to harden up a lot of those cell towers up. We've done a lot of work since that time. But then there was also some issues where there were some burn throughs actually underground. And so with us, with AT&T, Verizon, and US Cellular, the areas where the sheriff's office has our microwave link are also areas that we are sharing with those cell providers. And so all three of us have been going out there, the cell providers, the sheriff's office, county DOT, all of us have worked on that. And then we've also hardened up a bunch of the buildings that we had up there, because believe it or not, we had some stuff that was still wood and, just standard shingle. That is not the case anymore. Greg Glavich and the county of Mendocino have been working very hard on that to make sure that we don't run into that problem again. And I remember it well. I got there to Redwood Valley, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever time. It was early, we'll put it that way. My cell phone would not work. And I was on the phone trying to call both of my brothers. I didn't realize that Santa Rosa was burning, trying to find out what kind of resources we were going to get. And, finally, when I got through to them, they explained to me what the entire state looked like. And you better thank your lucky stars that it's not as bad as what it is down here, they kept saying. Well, it still looked like the devil had come to breakfast in Mendocino County.
And Brian, do you have a question?
Yes, Kathleen and I, we live up in Brooktrails, and 100 feet of defensible space around our home takes us into the properties of 7 other people. And I have tried to connect with them and get in touch with them about doing some mitigation work, and I've gotten no responses. They're vacant lots, and the people are in Belmont and Texas. And is there any is there some support or help Brooktrails property owners such as myself can get help with that kind of situation?
Let's see, Scott Cratty, do you have a response to that, or?
Not really. We can only work on things with landowner permission, so I don't have any way around doing something on a property that doesn't have permission from the landowner.
Well, this is Keith. If I could chime in, we did have a discussion about the county's nuisance ordinance, and part of that is that there is now a process where if there's a nuisance declared, you could get the attention of the owner. It's not just an abatement at that point. It could be a civil fine. So it's a different level of a letter that would go to those absentee owners. But you still have to have some funding to enforce it. So I think that's the issue we're waiting as the county. We've got places that we would love to send a letter to the owners and say, if you don't clean, we can clean this up for you if you just sign the letter. If you don't, we'll clean it up anyway, and we're going to, fine you under this new ordinance, and you'll have to pay a bunch of money. Something like that would be effective. We've gotten quite a bit of voluntary. It's been good, but like with Brian, there are people that just don't respond. You just can't find them. So can we use the county ordinance?
Yeah, and Brian, you could call up code enforcement in the Planning and Building Services Department and tell them what the situation is. We have this ordinance that they can write a letter, they can do something, right?
The other piece on that, just to follow up, so in terms of what to do now, there's not much to do now, but there is the county ordinance. And the county, we did write a block grant that got funded for the county that's hanging out there to fund an enforcement officer for that for a test period. So there may be some actual action on that down the road, but last I talked, that it's sort of hung up in some state level red tape. Although it's supposedly funded, it's not, there's not been an actual contract established yet. And we're looking at least summer before we can move forward with that.
Madge.
Okay, a couple things. One, I was going to say that the city of Willits does have code enforcement for if people are leaving, large lots vacant with a lot of grass or other combustible material, and they do, really cite people and require them to clean it up within a certain amount of time. Or if they don't, then I think the city can go ahead and mow their grass down and charge them for it. And I don't know if the county has the staff resources to be able to do that as effectively, but legally, if it's a nuisance, which obviously an unsafe condition with fire safety is, there is a handle for it, but they need to have enough staff, and then there needs to be some way of going in and doing it if you have an absentee landowner who isn't cooperating. So that was one thought. And I appreciate.
And this is Keith, if I could chime in on that one again. I think that's excellent. The abatement process is what the county was doing. Unfortunately, it works great for a house in Willits because nobody wants to lose their house over a $300, $500 something. But vacant lots, there's 4,500 vacant lots in Brooktrails. Mm-hmm. There's 6,000 lots, approximately about 1,500 homes, and about 4,500 vacant lots. So like what Brian's talking about, you're 10 feet on either side of your house to one lot. It's 50 feet across to get to another lot, and another 50 feet to get across yet another lot, all the way around your house. And so you've got 4, 5, 6 parcel owners. There's trusts. They've been broken up into pieces. They're overseas. So the Brooktrails quit doing that because when you do the abatement, you can do that and you put a lien on the property. Then you try to sell the property after 3, 4, 5 years of not collecting any taxes at all. And they've done that in the past. They had 600 parcels the last time they tried it, and they sold 2 out of those 600. So that's where this ordinance really is for the Brooktrails and something outside of a municipal area where you actually have just people with some vacant land that could care less. And I'm sure that's like that all over the county. We also have the grows and other things going on where people don't care, and it's hard to find the owner in those cases. So we're hoping the ordinance will give us a civil kind of penalty where it's not just an abatement where we have to sell the property. Anyway, thank you.
That's good to know. That's something we should be pretty aggressive about following up on it, because all those vacant lots, if they're not maintained, are pretty. It doesn't just affect that owner; it affects everybody else in the neighborhood or in the whole subdivision. Brooktrails is huge. So the other thing I wanted to ask, speaking of Brooktrails, Keith, you mentioned April 14th you have a meeting of the Sherwood Firewise group, and that there was going to be information about home hardening. Was there going to be an opportunity for people to get free inspections of their property if they request that? Was that?
Yeah, thank you. The Community Foundation of Mendocino County awarded us a grant to do 50 home hardening inspections. We've got a licensed contractor that's specializing in home hardening, Thomas Clegg. He's going to do the inspections. We're developing a form, and I'm ready to send a draft to Scott. We want to get some feedback on the forms. So what we'll do on the 14th, that's our quarterly Zoom meeting that we have for the Sherwood Firewise group. We'll be focusing in on that amongst some other things. But we're going to be able to do 50 homes. And there's both the defensible space aspect of it, which we're going to use the CalFire inspection form, because that's what CalFire would use as far as the defensible space and looking out from the home. But we're working on a very specific list for window types, door types, eaves and vents and roofing and all of those kinds of things, because what we'd like to try to do is come up with a list of materials that and processes that each home needs, and out of 50 we'll have a market survey that we can say the average home size is about like this. Most homes needed about 20 foundation vents and 15 eave vents, or whatever it is. We found that 50% had single glazing. They should have double glazing. Just we don't know yet the data, but that we're hoping that will give us some statistical data that we can then say, now if we did this for hundreds of homes, not just the 50 sample, but if we did it for all 1,500 homes, roughly what kind of effort would that take? So we're trying to sort of do it in that kind of scientific fashion, to build a database and then go after a market survey. And maybe the merchants like Mendo Mill and Friedman and such, we could have a monthly kind of a sale. Say this month we're specializing on replace your vents, or some other promotional things. Get them involved and have specials on things like that once we've identified. Because everybody needs fire extinguishers, everybody needs smoke alarms, everybody needs these things replaced all the time. And the vents are expensive. Replacing your windows and doors even more so. So it can get pretty pricey. So we wanted to look at, do-it-yourself things that are easy to do, a step up to things you might want to get financing for. And actually, there is a state level looking at Brooktrails as a pilot program to do a mitigation measure overlay for things like fire safety. And part of that would be to think about having something like a revolving loan fund that the state could offer a zero interest loan fund if you wanted to home harden and you needed $5,000 or $10,000, that kind of a thing. So there's a lot of activity going on in that area, and also the FireSafe Mendocino County FireSafe Council is doing the same. So it's something we could all work on together.
Is that meeting by Zoom or in person or both?
No, we're still doing Zoom meetings. We're probably our summer meeting. We're going to try to do an outdoor event for the summer quarterly.
Okay.
So that'll be July.
Okay, because I'd like to put that out to the well membership, because we have a lot of Brooktrails folks up there in Sherwood folks.
Yeah, I mean, it's on our website, sherwoodfirewise.org. It's posted right on the front page of the website, and it's also in the calendar there. It's on our Facebook page, and we send out the 300 or so email blip every time. So, yeah, appreciate getting the word out, though.
And I have one other question to our, I guess I'm not sure who will answer it, but if there is a evacuation warning and or then an order in the city of Willits, where do we evacuate to?
Well, one of the things that we hate to do is we hate to say, we want you to evacuate here or there, or because no matter what we say, chances are that is the place that will be on the fire. Okay. And so those instructions will come when we know where the fire is, the direction that the fire is burning. Those decisions will be made very rapidly when we get a handle on the direction of the fire, the intensity, and things like that. We'll work with CalFire on that. But if I start telling people, use the Fur Crow Road every time, but then the Fur Crow Road is where things catch fire, we don't want people in the habit of going there just in case that is an area that's burning. And situational awareness is going to be probably the biggest help that we can get. People need to know and understand, if the fire is in the east, you need to go west, or south or north or something like that. And Drew, do you have anything to add on that?
No, same thing, Sheriff Kendall. It's in the last couple of years, the places where we've said this is our evacuation area or our temporary refuge area, we try not to put those on the map, because then, just like the Furco Road example, we might have to green light the Sherwood Road and everybody goes down that, and we come up Furco Road, or it might be vice versa. So it's tough for the citizens, because we send that out via the Nixle and Everbridge once we're in consultation with typically the sheriff's office, sergeant or lieutenant, or yourself, and then get that processed. Otherwise, we're directing people, and I typically direct them to the greenest grass, flattest area, pool nearby, parking lots, large structures where you can park your car and go inside that won't burn rapidly. And that's the best we found during the Camp Fire, the Dixie fires, the Thomas fires, Lake County, the multiple fires in 2017, both here and in Sonoma, Lake and Napa counties, and over in Nevada County. So there is no great answer. I'd say the folks that I'm working with in some of the different FireSafe councils, as we go through, we look at where we can hold up. For example, the String Creek and Tartar Canyon folks, they have a large meadow. We can land helicopters there. We can stage engines there, put bulldozers there. They can all collapse depending on where the fire's at. If it's north of them, they come south. If it's south of them, they come north. And they can put a whole bunch of people in that area. And it's rarely identifiable from the air and from the ground. So that's what I'd suggest, is working within the community fire safe and find that refuge area that we think is going to work the best. And then we can work out from there.
In a lot of places, I mean, just driving around, you'll begin to understand that a lot of places are safer than others. If you can make it to the Safeway parking lot, if you can make it to the hospital parking lot, those locations are normally pretty safe. But we don't want to say, if we have a fire, we want you to go here, because if we do, I guarantee you Murphy's Law is going to come into effect, and that will be the one place that is on fire. So
one thing I'd like to add on that, Matt, is really everybody's got to be vigilant and listen and sign up for the warning centers, Nixle and things like that, where you guys are giving that information out, so they have that readily available to you, and you follow what is said at the time of the emergency.
I see in the chat that there's from Brett, says, is the county going to be submitting a grant application for another official and usable route out of Brooktrails? Will this be one big grant or several smaller ones? Well, we've been working, for those emergency access routes right now. We've been working on the Furco and the Willits Creek Trail. And then we're also trying to get that Primrose to Highway 20 opened up. As far as, what you call official and usable route, like a real second access route. I did have a talk with Congressman Huffman a couple weeks ago about the infrastructure bill, and if there would be money in it to create, it's going to cost something like $25 million for the second access route. And he said it was going to be grant driven and that there could be money for it, but really what they were looking for was to repair what already is in existence without creating new things. So I said, look, Brooktrails is a critical situation. He said, yeah, okay, you guys should start looking at the grant and trying to figure out what to do with it. And so that's what we need to do. I need to get together with Howard DeShield, the Director of Transportation, and see if he thinks it's viable to submit a grant application for that. In the meantime, we have those other routes that are available for emergency purposes only. Any other questions? So why don't, if we don't have any other questions, why don't we go back through the list and see if there's any closing comments from anyone? Okay, so I'm going to go down the list, and Brentt Blaser from the Office of Emergency Services.
No, just act early, just start preparing now, because there's a lot of different challenges, and a lot of times we wait till the last moment, right, to worry about something. So let's just be proactive and harden our homes and get ready for, hopefully will be a light summer, and that's it.
All right, well, thank you for being on this evening, Brentt.
There is another question in the chat about second access route for Pine Mountain. I don't know if anyone would like to address that at all.
Yeah, we have, CalFire has been really good on trying to create some shaded fuel breaks into Pine Mountain. I think they've done some really good routes, and I don't know, Chief Rhoads, if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of work in the last couple of years.
Yeah, there's been a ton, and the one that Chief Patton started several years ago with the Governor's Project, we have to go back and redo the CEQA, which my wife's working on, and then we'll come back and clean up whatever we didn't get and reinvigorate that clearance. The second route out is something that was brought to me just when I got the job last April. And it sounds more like a county issue of where the road slid out on its way to Tomkai. That's something that we can't really deal with. I know it's a large slide. I've seen it when we had the Tomkai fire last May. It was an issue for us getting people in there, and when we were tempted to do evacuations, there's only one way to get out. So we're looking at an alternate route, and I can't remember. I'm looking at the map, but I can't quite see it from my desk. Kind of where the four-way intersection is, where it would lead to Tomkai. We're looking at the road that goes to the northwest, and the Pine Mountain FireSafe Council folks are working on getting all the approvals to go through the various gates so we can blow that out with our equipment, the masticators and hand crews and so forth. So we'll make that another route to come out through the north and back to the large grassy opening, if people are familiar with Pine Mountain, where the four-way intersection is.
All right. And Chief Rhoads will be in contact about that road you're talking about.
You bet.
Okay.
And the same issue might be certainly addressed for the Ridgewood Ranch, the Black Hawk Drive and all that whole area. Is that called Ridgewood Ranch? It only has one road. It used to have a second road, and that slipped out pretty badly. And I know it's very expensive to fix that permanently. And so anyway, I wonder if there's any help to those owners out there to have a second access for fire egress. And
Yeah, it's a tough one. I've been working for a couple of years on it. We're still trying to find the solution. So Scott Cratty.
Sure, thanks. I'm going to do a quick screen share again, just because a lot of things have been mentioned kind of quickly: home hardening, defensible space, and there's a lot to each of those. So I just want to point out a resource. If you go to our website and under Safeguard Your Home, Preparing for Fire is the first thing under there. And it's a new section, and it's got the sort of 6 steps to getting yourself and your family ready for wildfire. And it's got kind of a summary of everything we've talked about tonight and an in-depth view of everything we talked about tonight. So step 1 is sign up for alerts, and we step you through the alert process and some other information gathering opportunities. Step 2 is to have your emergency plan ready and be ready to evacuate. And I can't click on it here. Wait, maybe I can if I put that in just the right place. Nope, everybody, the Zoom is on top of it. There we go. You click on it and it expands, and it will walk you through exactly how to do an emergency plan for your family, including your animals and resources for being ready to evacuate. Step 3, Chief Rhoads mentioned this, is to make your home and property as easily to defend as possible, to make your home inviting for firefighters and first responders in the area, and to have that sign up. So we step through that in detail. Step 4 is to continually work on your home hardening. And we've got links to all the resources you need step by step to know what home hardening means, what it is, how to start, what your first priority is and your second priority is. So how to work on hardening your home. Step 4 is to continually improve and maintain your defensible space so those flames don't get to your home. So you can click on that and step through exactly how to create your defensible space. And then step 6 is how to help prepare your community. As somebody else mentioned, the study that just happened in Paradise of what was most likely to cause a home to burn there came to 2 major conclusions. One was the age of the home was a big deal. So that has a lot to do with home hardening, how well prepared your home is. And the second most thing that caused it, if you're in an area that's kind of dense, is how close you were to another home that burned. Homes burning near you are the thing that are most likely to cause your home to burn. So the more prepared you are as a community, the more likely you all are to survive. So we've got steps in there to help prepare your neighborhood. So, we touched on all of those things tonight in brief, but if you want to get into depth in any of those and be able to step through them first get yourself ready. And this is a kind of the approach we advocate is self, home, out. So you start as close to home as possible. Then you start defending your home from right next to your home. As Captain Rhoads mentioned, the first 5 feet are most critical, and then out from there, and then your defensible space, and then your community. Anyway, so I just wanted to point out that we've got a campaign and all those resources kind of organized if people want to come back to one place and be able to step through it all.
You know, one of the things I'm proud about this year is that we, with the PG&E settlement money from the Redwood complex fire, that we were able to fund the Mendocino County FireSafe Communities or Council fully for the next 5 years, I think. And so that's a great benefit to the community because Scott, Emily do great work there. So, Sheriff Kendall.
Thank you, John. I don't know. Let's see here. I can see now. Just a couple of things. First off, thank you for having us in this meeting. And I really, really want to thank Supervisor Haschak for a lot of the work that he has done for the North. Mendocino County, we've had some tough times, but we need to celebrate the wins that we've had. We had the Oak Fire, the August Complex, the Broiler Fire, the Hopkins Fire. All of these were extremely destructive, and we had no loss of human life. And Lord knows, I would love to be able to sit back and pat myself on my back as Chief Rhoads would, as John Haschak would. But the fact is, it was all of you folks who were able to help us make it through and meet our mission goals of no loss of human life. And I'm not discounting the people who were displaced. It was a terrible, terrible thing, but we can rebuild houses. We can't rebuild people. The Board of Supervisors, being pretty much led by John on this, where we are investing in empowerment through education, we're seeing the fruits of that labor right now. And if we all continue to work on these things and take it seriously in the fashion that we have been, I think that we're going to have a good year ahead of us. And we should continue to celebrate these wins while getting ready for the hard times that are coming. We can see that we are still in this drought. We can see, you know, the wind's blowing at my house tonight, and it's a cool wind, but it's still drying the ground out. So we've got a lot of things going right. Let's all stick together on this. Let's all support each other. And as we continue into fire season, pay extra close attention. Almost every fire in Mendocino County is man-made. And it's a car crash. It's things like that you don't think about. So we really need to put a shoulder into it this year and be extra safe. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sheriff Kendall. Really appreciate you being on and accessible. Let's see, Keith Rutledge.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I'll take the opportunity to say that there's some people that aren't here. I mean, in addition to this really great presentation of state, federal, local, we're getting tremendous support from CalFire in particular, and also the California Conservation Corps came to for us on the project we've been funding, roadside fuel reduction. The CCC crew has been up here doing that work along Blue Lake Road and out to Timber Road to have another access route along the ridge line above Brooktrails, and they're doing tremendous work, and they're doing it on the state's dollar, not taking our CalFire grant funds, which means we've been able to expand out now to do the Sherwood Ranch and Sherwood Rancheria tribal area to include them in the roadside fuel reduction project. So the point is that the people that are listening to this workshop, talk to your neighbors. There's funding available. There's programs available, like Scott was saying with the FireSafe Council, and absolutely FireSafe Council and Bobby and Emily and Scott in particular. I mean, just great folks. But there's the RCD. I mean, there's other agencies, Natural Resource Conservation Service from USDA. So it takes the community, as the sheriff was saying, for us to offer those opportunities and then work hard in coordinating with the other agencies to make those kinds of things happen. And they don't happen right away. It takes a long time. It might take a year or two or three. But just like these emergency access routes that we're clearing now, that was something we were told in 2017, 2018 that they would never come back. We could never have that, and yet we used them in the Oak Fire. So it's possible, but the community has to come together, like Sheriff's saying. So I'm just making a plug for all the other people in the community doing this great work, all the other agencies and people doing really tremendous work for us. So thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you, Keith. And I think one thing I always take away from what Keith and the people in the Sherwood Firewise Council or community, their motto is, you know, they're forming community. And these meetings aren't just about laying out the information, but also making those connections between people. And that's, like we've heard this evening, those connections are going to be what's going to save us too. Let's see, Chief Rhoads from CalFire.
Thank you, Sue Haschak. Madge, with the answer to your question regarding another access out of Ridgewood, where Black Bart and Black Hawk come together. We're working with the Schaefer Ranch Road Association, not only on a pre-fire plan, but also, a pre-attack map as we call it, but of clearance on their roadway and the neighboring parcels. There's an access road. It's only for summer uses, not so much for winter. But if there's a fire to the east of that junction between Black Hawk and Black Bart, all down to Highway 101, there is an access road we can use, and we just have to cut the chain. We're working on our process to get that approved by the landowner permanently. So that's something we're working on. We're hoping to have it started this year and finished by next year. But if it's an emergency situation, we can cut and go.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on.
You bet.
Is there anything else anyone has to say, or any last minute questions or comments?
Just got one more thing, John.
Yeah, Sheriff Kendall.
My father used to tell my brothers and I when we were young that if tomorrow will never be a problem if you're ready for it yesterday. So make sure that your bags are packed. Make sure that you have a plan. And I'm the worst of all. I've been spoiled rotten by my wife. I truly have. And she takes care of most of these things. But we kind of live out in an area surrounded by brush on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. We do have plans. We've got our things set aside so that we can throw them in the truck and leave quickly. And just think about these things. Let's all be ready before we need to be. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So your father must have taught you and Luke well, because we're in good hands. So, okay. Anything else? All right, Madge, I'll send it back to you. And thank you very much. Again, thanks to Madge Strong for getting this together. And well, you know, they just do a phenomenal job of getting these community forums out there so people can learn. And then it's going to also be on Channel 3. Is that correct?
I'm hoping that they will be able to. I know that Andy Wright had a bicycle accident, and it might take a little while before he's able to get it on the Vimeo, but I think they will get that, and I'll let all of the panelists know how to access that. So if there's any requests for someone who wants to hear this who wasn't able to attend tonight, they can get it that way. And I was just going to say, I'll put into the chat one more time the set of contact information. It'll take me just a second to do that, but if you want to have information of the email addresses and phone numbers for any of the presenters tonight, and then the very next thing that was after that was the wonderful mendoready.org website, which has the way to sign up for your Nixle alerts. And I see Jane McCabe has her hand up, so while you answer her, I'm going to just make sure that's on the chat again.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I'm so excited to see all of you guys on. When we were having all that beautiful early spring weather, I was getting more and more fearful. I've had a way more fear than I thought I would have ever since that time where all the phones were down. And the only way you could find out anything was if Sheriff Tom showed up at the library over here, or you could drive over to the fire department yourself. And I think, I know that there's that data that's on, and I will look that up, Scott Cratty, and I really appreciated you telling us about that. But for me, because community is so important, it was really important to see all of your faces and all of us coming together, and to know what's actually being done out there really gives me a real strong feeling in my heart and motivates me to do those things, because otherwise it just feels so overwhelming that honestly, somebody my age just feels like, well, you just sit here and maybe if you're lucky, your house doesn't burn down. So I'm so grateful that you all showed up tonight. It really does make a difference. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jane. And I think that we all feel the same about it. Really appreciate everyone's time this evening, and trying to make community happen. So, and we're making the community safer by being together. So,
Yeah,
Madge,
and I agree too that I know so much is available on websites and even email and all of that, but personal, hearing the voices, seeing your faces, it sinks in at a different level. And I really appreciate that you all took the time to be presenters tonight, and that a lot of people were here to listen and learn from that. So really thank you very, very much for your service to the community.
all right, with that, are we saying good night?
I think we are done.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
All
you
right,
again.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. I'm going to stop the recording now.